the woman who has no soul should climb on the funeral pyre and be burnt up along with her husband. This was called sati. Well, when the British colonized India, they said, stop this. It's not good. So Indians accepted and stopped it. So that was an improvement. Later on, the Hindus themselves decided to abolish the caste system, which is a good thing. They did it amongst themselves. However, some of the modernist trends, like what happened to Christianity, are evil. For example, starting with the West, the practice of decriminalizing adultery and fornication, this is an evil turn. This is a new approach. It is modernist and it is evil because it creates forces which would destroy the families, break up homes, and cause the root of the society to crumble. And once you decriminalize adultery and fornication, and how did they do it? They did it following the same principle that we mentioned earlier, using their scientific knowledge and technology and their practical experimentation. They concluded, since we have now removed religion from the picture, how do we define what is wrong in terms of male-female relationships? They came up with two principles. We can't say it is forbidden in the Bible, the Old Testament, Deuteronomy. That's out the door. It's not relevant. So they had to come up with some universal principles according to them. So these were two. It is expressed in the phrase consenting adults. They said, whatever takes place between consenting adults should not be interfered with by government. Consent is there, meaning nobody is being forced. They are adults, meaning adults are not abusing children. Two adults with consent, it is their business what takes place amongst them. Government has no right. So on the basis of this, they decriminalized adultery and fornication, and they decriminalized homosexuality because it's consenting adults. Furthermore, in Sweden and much of Europe, incest was decriminalized. In Sweden, it is perfectly legitimate and okay for a man to have sexual relations with his mother, his sister, or his daughter. And that is modernism for you. That's where it's taking society. Is that an improvement? Of course not. That is a great evil, destructive to the fabric of the society. We have amongst us some who in the name of Islam have tried to promote some of these modernist values. Among them are the Qadianis or the Ahmadis. Mirza Ghulam, who claimed that he was a prophet of Allah in India, Pakistan. He cancelled jihad at a time when the nation was struggling against British colonialism. So he was an ally to the colonial powers, and he was given knighthood and given status in the British Empire. We also have, in even more recent times, another false prophet who claimed prophethood in America. Rashad Khalifa. Rashad Khalifa, who claimed that he discovered the mathematical miracle of the Quran, the number 19. And this was his miracle. He instituted the practice of female imams. So his wife used to lead salah in his temple. He called it a masjid. I don't want to call it that. We can only call it a temple. In his temple in Tucson, Arizona, his wife used to lead salah. When he was out of town, his wife used to lead the salah. And males and females would stand side by side in prayer. Not women in the back, because that is backwards. We need to be more progressive. So women would stand side by side with the men. And hijab, forget it, not needed. That was ancient. We're in modern times. It's enough for a woman to wear what is considered moderate. Of course, moderate and modest in American context is a miniskirt. So he promoted prophethood for himself and actually ended up attacking both the Quran and the Sunnah. After denying the Sunnah altogether, he then attacked the Quran, claiming that there are some verses in the Quran which are false. And in order to even support his claims of his 19 miracle, he went to the text of the Quran and changed it. And this you can see in their translation of the Quran. The translation by Rashad Khalifa. If you go to Surah Al-Qalam, at the beginning of Surah Al-Qalam, you find the letter Noon. وَالْقَلَمِ وَمَا يَسْتُرُونَ. Okay, begins with the letter Noon. However, because his claim that all of these letters were multiples of 19 in their chapters, when he added up all of the noons in Surah Qalam, he found that they were one short. So his 19 miracle wasn't working. So in order to make it work, he went to the text of the Quran and he rewrote Noon in the name of the letter. Noon, Waw, Noon. So, of course, Noon, Waw, Noon is read as Noon. But that's not what the text of the Quran had. It had just the letter Noon. And he claimed that this was the way it was in the ancient manuscripts and that the Muslim world, they changed it to just Noon. So he was taking it back to what it was. Of course, this is a big lie. You cannot find any manuscript in which Noon is written out as Noon, Waw, Noon. This was a change he made in the text of the Quran, which proves clearly that he is a false prophet. And one of his claims was that he would die a natural death. He had received certain death threats, and he said, the proof that I am a prophet of Allah is that I would die a natural death. No one will be able to kill me. Shortly thereafter, he was assassinated, stabbed to death in his temple, 1991, and that was the end of Rashad Khalifa. However, some of his followers, some of them left realizing that in fact he was a false prophet,